this could be the hope for it is to get non-hospitalized patients to recover faster. Is that too broad a shorthand?
No, I think that's the crux of it. And just to step back a second, as we all know, there's been enormous interest with this pandemic about whether the immune system and the antibodies it makes can help people when they get infected or not. And our study made several important advances. So the first thing we did was we provided very convincing evidence that, yes, people's immune systems most of the time can do a great job fighting the virus by making antibodies against the virus. But then we showed that for each person, it's a race between the virus and their immune system. Most people win this race by rapidly making their own antibodies. However, some people make antibodies more slowly, and this delayed response could put them at risk of losing this race to the virus. And the consequences of losing the race are getting sicker for longer and maybe needing hospitalization, may be worse. So the really important thing we showed with our cocktail is that we can use this antibody cocktail to substitute for a person's immune system. In essence, we can turn losers into winners by giving them their own immune response in a vial.
Well, how is this different from, I had David Ricks on recently from Lilly. How is this different from what Eli Lilly's doing?
Well, in many ways, the approach is the same. And I think that our study probably, is optimistic in terms of for their studies as well. But I think our results, at least from what's been described publicly, are so far more convincing. We were able to make this realization that it's the people who are losing the race, the people who are not mounting their own immune response. Those are the people where this sort of therapy can be most effective to. That's a really big advance.
Well, if that's the case, then a chance for emergency use? I mean, what's the path for emergency use, doctor? Because it was, from listening to you, I think even though it's just, 275 patients, that the FDA should take notice, try to get some more people, in any sort of study, because this could be breakthrough and also give you a lot of advice about what the vaccine should look like.
Yeah, well, I think this also is promising for vaccines because vaccines are trying to induce exactly the sort of antibodies that we're now giving to patients. But even though it's only 275 patients, let me remind you, the reason the vaccine studies have to be so much bigger is there's a lot more safety concerns with vaccines than with this therapy. This therapy, at least theoretically, is probably much safer and does not need as large studies as the vaccines do. We do think that this data that we've now generated is pretty compelling. And of course, it's up to regulators and others to decide whether an emergency use authorization is warranted here. But I think the data is really compelling here that we can really be making a difference for these patients.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.